listen close, my dear. Oh, honey, my heart feels so heavy tonight. This is the story of a woman who thought marriage would bring her a new family, love, support, a fresh start in a beautiful home. But instead she walked into a quiet, elegant web spun by a mother who refused to let go. Her name is Emily Carter, a smart, driven marketing director from Chicago, and her mother-in-law, Margaret Harrington, a woman who ruled her suburban kingdom with a velvet glove and an iron fist. This is their story, full of love turned to resentment, boundaries crossed, and a fight for who really owns the heart of one man. Emily met Ryan Harrington at a downtown networking event. Tall, charming, a successful corporate lawyer with that easy smile that made everyone feel special. They dated for 2 years. Long walks along Lake Michigan, late-night talks about dreams and futures. Emily had built her life from nothing. Scholarships, late nights studying, climbing the ladder in a cutthroat industry. She was proud, independent, the kind of woman who paid her own bills and planned her own vacations. When Ryan proposed on a snowy rooftop overlooking the city lights, Emily said yes without hesitation. She thought, this is it. My happy ending. The wedding was everything a suburban dream should be. The Harrington family estate in Naperville, sprawling lawns, white tents, string lights twinkling like stars. Emily wore a simple yet elegant gown. Nothing flashy, just timeless. But even on that perfect day, the first crack appeared. Margaret Harrington, Ryan's mother, 62 years old, perfectly coiffed silver hair, designer dress, and eyes that missed nothing, pulled Emily aside during photos. "Dear," she said, with that polite smile that never reached her eyes, "white is traditional for a first-time bride. You've been on your own for so long, perhaps ivory would have suited better." Emily laughed it off. Old-school thinking, she told herself. Generations apart. But then, at the reception, Margaret stood up to toast. "My son is finally settling down," she announced to the crowd. "And of course, Emily will be moving into the family home. It's tradition. Harringtons stay together." Emily froze. She and Ryan had talked about this. They were renting a modern condo downtown, close to work, their own space. Ryan squeezed her hand under the table. But he said nothing, just smiled and nodded at his mother. The honeymoon in Hawaii was bliss, until they returned. Margaret had helped by unpacking their wedding gifts into the family estate's guest wing. She thought it would be easier, Ryan explained when Emily walked in to find her clothes already hung in the closet. "Mom's heart isn't great these days. The doctor says stress is bad for her." Emily bit her tongue. She wanted to make it work. For Ryan, for the family she was joining. The first few weeks were small things. Margaret would drop by unannounced with casseroles. "You work so much, dear. You need real food." She rearranged Emily's kitchen. "This is how we've always done it." She commented on Emily's outfits. "That skirt is a bit short for a married woman. Don't you think?" Emily tried to be gracious. She cooked Margaret's favorite recipes, asked for advice on gardening, Margaret's pride and joy. But every time Emily asserted herself, like choosing her own paint color for the bedroom, Margaret's face would tighten. "Ryan always loved blue," she'd say softly. "But if you prefer something else, well, it's your home now, I suppose." The guilt was subtle, but it landed like a stone. Then came the holidays. Thanksgiving at the estate, Margaret's domain. Emily offered to bring her family's traditional stuffing recipe. Margaret smiled sweetly. "How thoughtful, but we have our own way. It's what Ryan grew up with." Emily's dish sat untouched on the side table. Later, in the kitchen, Margaret whispered to a cousin, loud enough for Emily to hear. "She tries so hard." Bless her heart. That phrase, "bless her heart," in the suburbs, it's code for poor thing. She just doesn't get it. Emily cried in the car on the way home. Ryan held her hand. "Mom means well. She's just protective." But Emily felt it. The slow erosion. She was the outsider in her own marriage. 6 months later, Emily found out she was pregnant. She and Ryan were overjoyed. They planned a small dinner to tell the family. Emily cooked. Her mom's lasagna, a comfort from her own childhood. When they shared the news, Margaret's eyes lit up. But only halfway. "A baby. How wonderful," she said. Then she turned to Ryan. "You'll need to move back fully now. The upstairs nursery is ready. I've kept it exactly as it was when you were little." Emily's heart sank. "We're staying in our condo for now," she said gently. "It's closer to work, and we want our own space." Margaret's smile froze. "Of course," she replied. But think of the baby. A child needs stability. Family around. Ryan stayed quiet again. The next day, Margaret called Emily's boss. "I'm just worried about her stress levels," she explained sweetly. "She's working too hard. Perhaps she needs more time off." Emily's boss suggested early maternity leave. Emily's promotion? Delayed. When Emily confronted Margaret, the older woman teared up. "I was only helping, dear. You're carrying my grandchild." One evening, Emily found Ryan's phone on the counter. A text from Margaret. "Son, she's being difficult again. Remember, I'm always here if you need to talk. Love you more than anything." Emily scrolled months of messages. Margaret tracking Ryan's schedule, commenting on Emily's ambition, suggesting he needed someone more family-oriented. And Ryan's replies, always placating. "Thanks, Mom, I'll handle it." Never defending, Emily confronted him that night, tears streaming. "Why do you let her control everything?" Ryan sighed. "She raised me alone after Dad died. She's all I had for years. I can't just cut her off." Emily whispered, "But you're cutting me off instead." The chapter ends here, with Emily standing in the beautiful suburban kitchen. Lights low, hand on her growing belly, wondering if she can fight for her place, or if the shadow of Margaret will swallow her whole. Oh, honey, this is just the beginning. The real storms are coming, betrayals deeper, fights louder, and a woman who must decide how far she'll go to claim her family. Oh, honey, if only the cracks had stayed small. But once the foundation weakens, everything starts to crumble, quietly at first. Then all at once, Emily's belly grew round and full of hope. But the house felt smaller every day. Margaret's shadow stretched longer, touching every corner, every decision, every breath Emily tried to take as a mother-to-be. The baby's arrival was approaching fast, 8 months now. Emily had dreamed of decorating the nursery herself. Soft neutrals, modern crib, a cozy reading nook with books she loved as a child. But one afternoon she came home from a rare day at the office to find the guest room completely transformed. Margaret stood in the middle of it, beaming. "I couldn't wait, dear. The painters finished this morning. Classic Harrington blue, just like Ryan's old room. And look at this antique crib. It was Ryan's when he was a baby. Family heirloom." Emily stared at the walls, dark navy, heavy curtains, a rocking chair that looked like it belonged in a museum. No soft grays, no personal touches. She felt her chest tighten. "Margaret, we talked about this. I wanted to do it myself." Margaret's smile didn't falter. "Oh, but time is short and you've been so busy." "I was only helping. Ryan said it was fine. He loves the nostalgia." Emily turned to Ryan, who had just walked in. He avoided her eyes. "It looks great, Mom, thanks." That night, Emily locked herself in the bathroom and cried, silent, shaking sobs. She felt erased, like her voice didn't matter anymore. She texted her best friend, "I don't recognize my own home. Or my husband." The reply came quick. "You need boundaries, Em. Talk to a therapist." Emily laughed bitterly through tears. Therapy in the Harrington house? Margaret would call it drama. The breaking point came at Sunday family dinner, Margaret's sacred ritual. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, the good china. Emily was exhausted, feet swollen, hormones raging. She'd spent the day trying to work from home, while Margaret supervised from the doorway. At the table sat Margaret, Ryan, Emily's sister-in-law Claire, who always sided with Mom, and a few cousins. Conversation started innocently, baby names, due date. Then Margaret leaned forward. "We've been thinking, after the baby comes, Emily should take at least a year off. Careers are important, but motherhood is sacred. Ryan makes enough for both of you." Emily set her fork down slowly. "I'm going back after maternity leave. I love my job. It's part of who I am." Margaret tilted her head, voice honey-sweet. "Of course, dear, but priorities change. Look at Claire. She stepped back after her second, and she's so much happier." Claire nodded obediently. Emily felt the heat rise. "I'm not Claire, and I'm not stepping back." Margaret sighed dramatically. "Ryan, darling, tell her. A child needs its mother at home, not in some office-chasing promotions." Ryan cleared his throat. "Mom has a point, Em. We can afford it. Maybe part-time?" Emily stared at him. Her husband, the man who once promised to support her dreams. The table went silent. Then Emily spoke, voice steady despite the tremble. "No, I won't be forced into a role I didn't choose. This is my body, my career, my life." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "You're being selfish. Think of the baby." Emily stood up, chair scraping loudly. I am thinking of the baby. I want him to see a mother who has her own identity, not one who was guilted into disappearing. She walked out, leaving the room frozen. Upstairs, she heard Margaret's voice drift up, soft, wounded. She's hormonal. She'll come around. Poor thing. After that dinner, things turned colder. Margaret stopped helping and started withdrawing, subtly weaponizing silence. She'd bake cookies for Ryan and Claire's kids, but nothing for Emily. She'd talk baby plans with Ryan, never including Emily. She even started a group chat for family updates that somehow excluded Emily. Emily felt invisible. She tried talking to Ryan late at night. We need couples therapy. This isn't healthy. Ryan sighed. Mom would be hurt. She's old school. Let's just get through the birth first, Emily whispered. She's not old school. She's controlling. And you're letting her. Ryan rolled over. I'm tired, Em. We'll figure it out. One afternoon, alone in the house, Emily found an old photo album in the attic, Margaret's private collection. Pages of Ryan as a child, happy, smiling, but also pages of Margaret alone after her husband died. Single mom, fierce protector. For a moment, Emily felt pity. Maybe Margaret was scared of losing her son. But then she turned the page and saw a note tucked in, handwritten, dated years ago. Ryan must never marry someone who puts career over family. I won't lose him like I lost his father. Emily's hands shook. This wasn't protection. This was a plan. Oh, honey. The house that once felt like a dream was now a cage. Emily's belly grew heavier, but so did the weight on her heart. She was carrying a child. And the fight for her own survival. The real war was just beginning. Oh, honey, sometimes the storm doesn't creep in quietly anymore. Sometimes it crashes through the door, tearing everything apart in one brutal moment. Emily's water broke at 3:17 a.m. on a cold February night. Contractions came fast, too fast. She gripped the edge of the kitchen island, breathing through the pain, while Ryan fumbled for the hospital bag. Margaret appeared at the top of the stairs like a ghost, robe perfectly tied, hair neat even at that hour. Call the doctor, Ryan. I'll drive. She's in no condition. Emily shook her head through a contraction. No, we'll take our car. I want my doctor. Margaret's voice sharpened. Don't be stubborn, dear. You're early. This is serious. They piled into the SUV, Margaret in the front passenger seat, Emily in the back clutching her belly, Ryan driving white-knuckled. The hospital was 25 minutes away in good traffic, but the snow had started again. Emily labored in the back seat, trying to time breaths, while Margaret kept glancing back. Relax, Emily. Panicking won't help the baby. Emily wanted to scream, but another contraction stole her words. At the hospital, chaos. Early labor, high blood pressure, baby's heart rate dipping. The doctor rushed in, Dr. Patel, Emily's chosen OB, calm and steady. We need to monitor closely. Possible preeclampsia. You may need an emergency C-section if things don't stabilize. Emily nodded, terrified but focused. Ryan held her hand. Finally, something real. Margaret hovered in the doorway. I'll be right outside, son. Call if you need me. Hours dragged. Emily progressed slowly, pain meds helping but not enough. Ryan stayed by her side, until Margaret texted him. Son, I'm in the waiting room. Coffee is ready. You need a break. He hesitated. I'll just step out for 5 minutes, Em. Grab some water. Emily whispered, Don't leave me. But he went. In the waiting room, Margaret sat with Claire and a few cousins. When Ryan appeared exhausted, she pulled him into a hug. Poor thing. She's making this so dramatic. In my day, we didn't fuss so much. Ryan rubbed his eyes. She's scared, Mom. Margaret patted his arm. Of course, but you need to stay strong for her. And for me. I can't lose you to all this stress. Back in the room, Emily asked the nurse, Where's my husband? He's in the waiting area with family. Emily felt the first real crack in her heart. Not the pain of labor, but the loneliness. Around 6 a.m., things turned. Baby's heart rate dropped sharply. Dr. Patel ordered an emergency C-section. Emily was wheeled into the OR, terrified, shaking. She begged the nurse, Please get Ryan. Ryan rushed in just as they prepped her. Scrubs on, mask up. He held her hand while the anesthesia took effect. I'm here, Em. I'm sorry. She whispered, Don't let her take this from me. The baby was born at 6:42 a.m., a boy. 5 pounds 8 ounces, small but crying strong. They named him Lucas. Emily saw him briefly, tiny, perfect, placed on her chest for seconds, before the NICU team whisked him away for observation. Premature lungs, needs monitoring. After recovery, Emily was moved to a postpartum room. She asked for Lucas immediately. The nurse hesitated. Your mother-in-law is with him in the NICU. She's been there since the birth. Emily's blood ran cold. What? She said she was the grandmother. Family policy allows one visitor at a time. Emily called Ryan, voice shaking. Get her out of there! That's my baby. Ryan arrived conflicted. Mom just wanted to see him. She's been worried. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She's not the mother, I am. And you let her take my first moments. Margaret entered the room minutes later, smiling, holding a photo she'd taken of Lucas in the incubator. Look at him. Our little Harrington heir. So precious. Emily stared at the photo, her baby, but without her. Give me my phone. I want my own pictures. And get out. Margaret's face hardened. I was only helping. You were in surgery. Emily's voice rose, first time ever in front of her. You crossed a line. This ends now. Ryan stood frozen between them. Margaret turned to him. Son. She's exhausted. Hormonal. She doesn't mean it. Emily looked at Ryan, pleading. Choose right now. Ryan swallowed hard. Mom, maybe give us some space. Margaret's eyes widened, shock, then anger. She left without another word. Oh, honey, the baby was safe. But the war had just been declared. Emily held Lucas for the first time hours later, skin to skin, tears falling on his tiny head. She whispered to him, I'll fight for us, little one. No one takes you from me. The house that once promised love now felt like a battlefield, and Emily was ready to fight. Oh, honey, the baby was home. Tiny Lucas, with his perfect little fingers and sleepy eyes, finally sleeping in the nursery. But peace? That never came. Instead, the house filled with a different kind of silence, the kind that presses down like fog, heavy and suffocating. Emily had won the battle in the hospital. But Margaret was already planning the war. The first week home was supposed to be sacred. Rest, bonding, quiet nights with the baby. Emily tried to create a bubble. Door closed, phone on Do Not Disturb, Lucas skin to skin as much as possible. But Margaret had other plans. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, Margaret knocked, softly at first, then louder. I brought breakfast, dear. You need your strength. She'd enter without waiting for an answer. Carrying a tray, oatmeal, fresh fruit, herbal tea for milk production. Emily forced smiles. Thank you, Margaret. But the tray always came with commentary. You're holding him wrong. Support the head more. Babies can sense tension, you know. Or he's fussing because he's cold. In my day, we swaddled tighter. By day 5, Emily snapped. Margaret, please. I've read the books. I've talked to the pediatrician. I know what I'm doing. Margaret's eyes widened in mock hurt. I'm only trying to help. You're exhausted. You need guidance. She left the room, but not before placing the tray down with a deliberate clink. Margaret didn't yell. She never raised her voice. That was her genius and her weapon. She worked in whispers, in small cuts that bled slowly. She started inviting neighbors over to meet the baby, without asking. Emily, women in pastel cardigans, cooing over Lucas, asking Emily invasive questions. Are you breastfeeding? How long do you plan to stay home? Isn't it wonderful having Margaret here? She's such a blessing. Emily felt like a guest in her own life. Then came the photos. Margaret posted on her private Facebook group, Harrington Family Album, pictures of Lucas she had taken during visits Emily hadn't even known about. Captions, Our precious grandson, Grandma's little man. No mention of Emily, not one. Emily saw the posts when a cousin tagged her. She confronted Margaret in the kitchen that evening. Why didn't you ask me before posting? Margaret didn't look up from chopping vegetables. They're family photos, dear. Everyone wants to see the baby. Emily's voice shook. They're my baby too. I want to share when I'm ready. Margaret finally met her eyes, cool, unblinking. You've been so tired. I didn't want to bother you. Ryan was slipping further away. He worked late most nights, claiming deadlines. When he came home, he spent time with Lucas, but always with Margaret nearby, narrating, Look how he smiles for Grandma. Look how calm he is when I hold him. One night, Emily overheard them in the living room. Margaret, she's struggling, son. Maybe postpartum depression. She needs more support. Or maybe she needs to step back. Ryan, I don't know, Mom. She's trying. Margaret, trying isn't enough when it's my grandchild. You have to protect him. Emily walked in, robe loose, eyes red from crying. Protect him from what? From me? Ryan stood up quickly. That's not... Margaret interrupted smoothly. We're just worried, dear. You've been emotional. Emily looked at Ryan, pleading one last time. Are you going to let her say that about me? About your wife? The mother of your son? Ryan looked between them and chose silence. That was the moment Emily changed. No more pleading, no more biting her tongue. The next morning, Emily made her move. She packed a diaper bag, dressed Lucas in the tiny outfit her own mother had sent, and left a note on the kitchen counter. Taking Lucas to my mom's for a few days? We need space. Don't follow. We'll talk when I'm ready, Emily. She drove to her mother's small house in the next suburb over. Nothing fancy, but warm, full of love. Her mom opened the door, took one look at her daughter's face, and pulled her into a hug without questions. For the first time in months, Emily breathed. Lucas slept peacefully. No knocks, no commentary, no shadows. Margaret called Ryan immediately. She took my grandson. Ryan stared at the note. She's not gone forever, Mom. She just needs time. Margaret's voice cracked. Real tears this time. You're going to let her do this? After everything I've done for you? For the first time in his life, Ryan felt the weight. He texted Emily, I'm sorry. Come home when you're ready. I love you. Oh, honey. Emily had taken the first step. She wasn't running away. She was reclaiming herself. But Margaret wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The real storm was coming, and it would shake the entire family to its core. Oh, honey, when a woman like Emily finally draws the line in the sand, you'd think the world might pause. But not in the Harrington house. Margaret didn't break. She bent the rules, sharpened her tools, and struck back harder than anyone expected. What started as a quiet escape turned into a full-blown family war. And the first casualty was the truth. Emily spent 3 peaceful days at her mom's small bungalow. No grand estate, no polished marble counters, just a cozy living room with mismatched furniture, the smell of fresh coffee, and her mother's quiet strength. Lucas slept soundly in a portable bassinet, his tiny chest rising and falling without judgment. Emily felt her body relax for the first time in months, muscles unclenching, mind clearing. She even started journaling again, something she hadn't done since college. But Margaret wasn't waiting. On the morning of day 4, Ryan's phone blew up with texts from his mother. She's keeping my grandson from me. This is kidnapping, Ryan. You need to bring him home, now. Ryan drove over, alone. He knocked softly on the door. Emily's mom answered, arms crossed. She's resting. Come back when she's ready. Ryan looked past her, voice cracking. Please, I just want to see my son. Emily stepped into view, holding Lucas close. Her face was calm, too calm. You can see him, but only here, and only if you listen. They sat in the small living room. Ryan held Lucas awkwardly at first, then softened. Tears filled his eyes. I miss you both. I didn't realize how bad it got. Emily's voice was steady. You let it get bad, Ryan. Every time you chose silence, you chose her. Back at the estate, Margaret wasn't idle. She called the family lawyer, the same one who handled her late husband's estate. I need advice, she said sweetly. My daughter-in-law has taken my grandson without notice. Is there anything we can do? The lawyer hesitated. It's not that simple, Margaret. She's the mother. No court would see this as kidnapping unless there's danger. Margaret's tone shifted. But what if there is danger? Postpartum issues. Instability. I've been worried for months. She sent the lawyer screenshots, carefully, selected, of Emily's texts. To friends. I can't take it anymore. This house is suffocating me. The lawyer sighed. That's thin. But if you document more and get Ryan on board. That evening, Emily's mom pulled her aside. I didn't want to say anything before, but I think you need to know. She handed Emily an old envelope, yellowed, postmarked 15 years ago. Inside, a letter from Margaret to Emily's late father, a distant business acquaintance of the Harringtons. The handwriting was unmistakable. Dear Mr. Carter, I must insist you keep your daughter away from my son. She comes from a broken home, single mother, no stability. Ryan deserves better. I will not allow this match. Emily's hands shook. Her father had died years before she met. Ryan, Margaret had tried to sabotage them before they even started. Emily stared at the paper. She knew my dad? Her mom nodded. Your dad mentioned it once, said the Harrington. Woman was a piece of work. I thought it was nothing. Emily felt the rage rise, clean, hot, clarifying. She wasn't just fighting for now. She was fighting for all the years Margaret had tried to erase her. The next day, Emily returned to the estate, with Lucas, with her mom, and with the letter. She walked straight into the living room where Margaret sat, sipping tea like nothing had happened. Ryan was there too, caught in the middle again. Emily placed the letter on the coffee table. "Explain this." Margaret glanced at it, then paled. "Where did you get that?" "Doesn't matter," Emily said. "You tried to stop us before we even began. And now you're trying to take my son." Margaret stood slowly. "I was protecting my family." Emily's voice rose. "Your family? Or your control?" Ryan picked up the letter, read it once, twice. His face drained of color. "Mom, you did this?" Margaret turned to him, voice trembling. "I knew she wasn't right for you." "I still know it." Emily stepped forward. "You don't get to decide anymore. This ends today." She turned to Ryan. "You have a choice. Stay here with her rules, or come with us, your wife and your son, and get help. Real help, therapy, boundaries, all of it." The room went silent. Margaret's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. But Ryan looked at Lucas, then at Emily. He stood up. "I'm coming with you." Margaret gasped. "Ryan," he cut her off, gentle but firm. "I love you, Mom, but I've lost too much already." Oh, honey, the house that had once felt like a prison now echoed with the sound of a door closing. Emily walked out with her son in her arms, Ryan beside her. Margaret stood alone in the grand foyer, beautiful, empty, and finally, powerless. But don't think it's over. Margaret had one more card to play, and it would hurt everyone. Oh, honey, when the quiet war turns loud, the whole world hears the screams. Emily thought walking out with her husband and son was the end of the nightmare. She was wrong. Margaret didn't retreat. She declared total war, and she fought dirty. The first week after they left the estate was fragile but hopeful. Emily and Ryan moved into a small rental apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, but theirs. Lucas cooed in his crib, oblivious to the storm. They started couples therapy, once a week, a neutral space where Ryan finally spoke. "I've been scared of losing her my whole life," he admitted to the therapist. Emily held his hand under the table. For the first time in years, she felt like they were a team. Then the papers arrived. A courier knocked on their door at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. Legal documents. Margaret had filed for emergency. Temporary custody of Lucas, claiming Emily was an unfit mother due to severe postpartum instability, emotional volatility, and abandonment of the family home. Attached, affidavits from Margaret, Claire, and even the family doctor, who Margaret had convinced to sign off, on concerns about Emily's mental health. Screenshots of Emily's old texts, photos of the nursery she destroyed when she left, and a request for supervised visitation only for Emily. Emily read the words and felt the floor drop away. "They're trying to take my son," she whispered. Ryan stared at the papers, face pale. "This is insane. She can't do this." But the lawyer they called that afternoon was blunt. "She can. And she has the money, the connections, and the narrative. You need to fight back, hard." Margaret didn't stop at court. She went public in the way only a well-connected suburban matriarch can. She posted on the local community Facebook group, thousands of members. A grandmother's plea. "My grandson is being kept from his family by a mother who is struggling. Prayers needed. We just want what's best for little Lucas." Comments poured in. "Poor baby. Grandmas know best. Sounds like postpartum psychosis. Get that child safe." The post went viral in their suburb. Neighbors Emily barely knew texted her, "Is everything okay? Are you really unfit?" Emily's phone rang non-stop. Her boss called, concerned about optics for the company. She turned off her phone and cried in the shower, hot water mixing with tears. Emily's mother came over that night with a box of old files. "I dug deeper," she said quietly. Inside, records from a private investigator her father had hired. Years ago, after Margaret's first attempt to block the relationship. One page stopped Emily cold, a sealed court document from 20 years ago. Margaret had been involved in a custody battle over Ryan. When Ryan's father died suddenly, Margaret fought his parents, Ryan's grandparents, for full custody. She won by painting them as unstable and emotionally unfit. The investigators' notes were chilling. Margaret Harrington fabricated medical records and witness statements to portray the paternal grandparents as dangerous. Case records sealed after settlement. Emily stared at the page. She did exactly this, to her own in-laws. Ryan walked in, saw the papers, and froze. "What is this?" Emily handed him the document. "Your mom didn't just protect you. She destroyed your grandparents' lives to keep you." Ryan sat down hard. He read in silence. Then he whispered, "I never knew." Tears fell onto the paper. "She told me they didn't want me, that they abandoned us." Emily didn't wait. She scheduled a meeting with Margaret, neutral ground, a coffee shop downtown. Ryan came too. Lucas stayed with Emily's mom. Margaret arrived perfectly composed, designer coat, pearls, smile in place. She sat across from them like it was a business meeting. "I see you got the papers," she said calmly. Emily slid the old custody file across the table. "Explain this." Margaret glanced at it, then looked away. "That was different. They were unfit." Ryan's voice broke. "Like you say Emily is unfit?" Margaret's mask cracked, just a flicker. "I did what I had to. For you, Ryan, I couldn't lose you." Emily leaned forward. "You're doing it again, only this time it's my son. Your grandson." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Real or performed, impossible to tell. "I just want my family back." Ryan stood up. "You had a family. You pushed us away." He looked at Emily, eyes clear for the first time. "We're dropping the rental. We're moving into our own house. And we're dropping the custody case, if you drop yours. And never contact us again without permission." Margaret stared at him. Shock, then rage, then something broken. "You're choosing her over me?" Ryan's voice was steady. "I'm choosing my wife, my son, and my own life." He walked out. Emily followed, head high. Oh, honey, the war wasn't over. The court dates were still coming. But for the first time, Emily wasn't fighting alone. Ryan had finally chosen, and Margaret, for the first time in decades, was truly alone. Oh, honey. The day the truth finally stepped into the light. The courtroom felt smaller than it should have. Marble floors, wooden benches, the American flag hanging quietly in the corner, like it was watching too. Emily sat there in a simple navy dress, hands clasped so tight her knuckles turned white. Lucas safe at home with her mother, Ryan beside her, nervous but present. Across the aisle, Margaret, impeccable as ever, flanked by her expensive lawyer. This wasn't just about custody anymore. It was about everything that had been buried for decades. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Judge Harlan, called the session to order. Emergency petition for temporary custody of minor child Lucas Harrington. Petitioner, Margaret Harrington. Margaret's lawyer stood first, smooth, confident. Your Honor, the grandmother has credible evidence of the mother's instability, documented emotional outbursts, abandonment of the marital home, and concerns from medical professionals about postpartum mental health. He presented the stack of affidavits, screenshots, and Margaret's tearful testimony about fearing for her grandson's safety. Then it was Emily's turn. Her lawyer, a sharp, compassionate woman named Sarah, rose calmly. Your Honor, this is not a case of unfit parenting. This is a case of a controlling mother-in-law weaponizing the court system to punish her daughter-in-law for setting boundaries. Sarah laid out the evidence. The old letter Margaret sent to Emily's father years ago. The sealed records showing Margaret's own history of fabricating claims in a custody, battle against her in-laws, text messages and emails proving Margaret's surveillance and manipulation, therapy notes from the couples counselor, confirming Ryan's emotional dependence, and Margaret's interference. The courtroom went still when Sarah projected the 20-year-old court document on the screen. Margaret's face drained of color. Ryan stared at the floor, shame and sorrow mixing in his expression. Judge Harlan leaned forward. Mrs. Harrington, is this accurate? Margaret's voice was small, almost childlike. I was protecting my son. The judge's tone sharpened. By destroying his grandparents' relationship? By repeating the pattern with his wife? Margaret broke then. Real tears, no performance. I was alone after my husband died. I couldn't lose Ryan, too. She looked at her son across the room. I thought I was saving him. Ryan stood, unprompted. The judge allowed it. Mom, you didn't save me. You kept me from having a full life. His voice cracked. I love you, but I can't let you hurt my family anymore. Emily reached for his hand. He squeezed it, hard. Judge Harlan ruled swiftly. Petition denied. No evidence of unfit parenting. The court finds the petitioner's claims unsubstantiated and, frankly concerning given her own history. She looked directly at Margaret. Mrs. Harrington, I strongly recommend therapy. Family estrangement is painful, but forced control is destructive. Turning to Emily and Ryan. Congratulations on your new beginning. The court will issue a protective order. No contact from the petitioner without written agreement from both parents. The gavel fell. Margaret sat frozen. Her lawyer whispered something. She didn't respond. Emily walked out of the courtroom. On shaking legs, relief crashing over her like a wave. Ryan followed, tears streaming openly. Outside, in the cold January air, they hugged, long, silent, healing. The months that followed were not easy. They bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a different suburb, nothing like the Harrington estate. Small yard, cozy kitchen, a nursery painted soft gray, Emily's choice. Lucas took his first steps there, laughing as he fell into Emily's arms. Therapy continued, twice a week now. Ryan worked hard to untangle years of guilt and loyalty. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner," he said one night, holding Emily close. She kissed his forehead. "You see it now. That's what matters." Margaret disappeared from public life for a while. No more Facebook posts, no neighborhood events. Claire called Emily once, awkward, tentative. "Mom's struggling. She's in therapy too." Emily listened. "I hope she finds peace. But our door stays closed until she respects our boundaries." One evening, 6 months after the ruling, a letter arrived, handwritten. Margaret's elegant script. "Emily, Ryan, Lucas, I was wrong. In so many ways. I thought control was love. I was afraid. I'm learning, slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. Just know I'm sorry. And I pray for your happiness every day. Margaret." Emily read it aloud to Ryan. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Ryan spoke. "Maybe one day. Supervised visits. When we're ready." Emily nodded. "Maybe." A year later, Lucas's first birthday. Small party. Emily's mom, a few close friends. Ryan's sister Claire, who had quietly distanced herself from Margaret's influence. No grand estate, no tension, just cake, laughter, and a little boy covered in frosting. Emily watched Ryan lift Lucas high, both of them laughing. She felt it then, the peace she'd fought so hard for. Oh, honey, families break. Sometimes they shatter. But sometimes from the pieces, something stronger is built. Emily didn't win by destroying Margaret. She won by choosing herself, her son, her marriage. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Honey, listen close. Time doesn't heal everything, but it does give you room to breathe, room to remember, room to forgive, room to become someone new. 3 years had passed since that cold January day in the courtroom. 3 years since the gavel fell and the chains finally loosened. Lucas was 4 now, a bright-eyed boy with his mother's curiosity and his father's quiet smile. Emily's hair had a few more silver strands, but her eyes were brighter than they'd been in years. Ryan had changed too, softer around the edges, stronger in the middle. And Margaret? She had become a ghost in their lives, until she wasn't. The little house on Maple Lane had become their sanctuary. White picket fence. Cliché? Yes, but Emily loved it. A swing set in the backyard. Vegetable garden that Lucas helped tend with muddy hands and proud grins. Emily had taken a promotion, remote most days, and Ryan had switched firms, choosing one with better work-life balance. They went to therapy together for the first year, then separately. Then occasionally as a couple when life got heavy. They learned to talk, really talk, about fear, about guilt, about love that had almost slipped away. Lucas called Emily Mama with that sweet toddler lisp that melted hearts. He called Ryan Dada and ran to him every evening when the garage door opened. And sometimes, in quiet moments, he asked questions only 4-year-olds can ask. "Who's Grandma Margaret?" Emily would smile gently, brush his curls back. "She's Dada's mommy. She loves you very much, but she lives far away right now." It was the truth. Soft, age-appropriate, honest. It started with a birthday card. Lucas's 4th birthday. A simple white envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Inside, a handmade card with a crayon drawing of a little boy on a swing, clearly traced from a photo. A check for $200, for Lucas's college fund or whatever brings him joy. And a short note. "Dear Lucas, happy 4th birthday, my sweet boy. I think of you every single day. I hope one day you'll know how much you are loved. With all my heart, Grandma Margaret." No pressure, no guilt, just quiet love. Emily read it 3 times before showing Ryan. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the handwriting like it belonged to a stranger. "She's trying," he said finally. Emily nodded slowly. "But is trying enough?" They talked late into the night. About boundaries. About safety. About what forgiveness really meant. Not forgetting, but releasing the poison so it didn't keep hurting them. 6 months later, another envelope. Christmas this time. A small wooden train set, handmade, each car painted carefully. A note for Emily and Ryan. "I've been in therapy for 2 years now. Weekly. Sometimes twice. A week when the nights are hard. I'm learning why I did the things I did. I'm learning how much pain I caused. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know I'm changing. Not for show. For real. Margaret." Claire called Emily the next week, the first real conversation in years. "She's different, Em. She cries a lot. She talks about regret. She's even volunteering at the local women's shelter, helping new moms." Emily listened. She didn't commit, but she didn't hang up either. Lucas started kindergarten. First day, tiny backpack, huge grin. Emily cried in the car after dropping him off. Happy tears, proud tears. Ryan held her hand the whole drive home. That afternoon, the school called. "Mrs. Harrington? There's a woman here claiming to be Lucas's grandmother. She's in the office with a gift. We told her she's not on the pickup list." Emily's heart stopped. She drove back immediately, pulse racing. There, in the school office, sat Margaret, older, thinner, hair completely silver now, eyes red-rimmed. She stood when Emily entered. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I just wanted to see him on his first day. I brought this." She held out a small stuffed elephant, Lucas's favorite animal from the zoo. Photos Margaret must have seen online. Emily stared at her. Years of anger, hurt, fear rose like a wave. And then, something else. Pity? No, understanding. She took a deep breath. "Wait here." Emily went to Lucas's classroom, asked the teacher if she could borrow him for 5 minutes. She brought him to the office. Lucas looked at the stranger with wide eyes. Margaret knelt slowly, knees creaking. "Hi, sweet boy," she whispered. I'm your Grandma Margaret." Lucas tilted his head. "You're the one who sent the train?" Margaret's breath hitched. "Yes, baby, I sent the train." Emily watched, heart in her throat. She could stop this. She could take Lucas's hand and walk away, but she didn't. Instead, she said very quietly, "Lucas, would you like to give Grandma Margaret a hug?" Lucas looked at his mother, then at the old woman with tears on her cheeks. He stepped forward, wrapped his little arms around her neck. Margaret sobbed, silent, shaking sobs. Emily felt her own tears fall. It didn't happen overnight. There were rules, strict rules, supervised visits only, at first in public places, parks, ice cream shops, the zoo. Emily or Ryan always present. No overnights, no big gifts, no guilt trips. Margaret followed every rule. She asked questions instead of giving orders. She listened when Emily spoke. She apologized, again and again, not in grand speeches, but in quiet moments. "I was wrong. I hurt you. I'm ashamed." One day at the park, while Lucas chased butterflies, Margaret turned to Emily. "I never thought I'd get this chance." "Thank you." Emily looked at her, really looked. "I didn't do it for you," she said honestly. "I did it for Lucas, and maybe a little bit for Ryan." Margaret nodded. "That's enough." 2 years after the courtroom, Christmas again. This time, the invitation came from Emily. A simple text. Lucas asked if Grandma Margaret could come for cookies and presents. 5 p.m. Christmas Eve, our house. Margaret arrived early, nervous, clutching a bakery box of cookies she'd baked herself. Lucas ran to her the moment the door opened. "Grandma, come see my tree." The evening was quiet. No grand displays. Just hot chocolate, twinkling lights. Lucas showing off his new train set, the one she'd sent years earlier. Margaret sat on the floor, something she'd never done in the old house, and played with him, laughed when he made the train crash dramatically. Later, when Lucas was asleep, the 3 adults sat in the living room. Fire crackling, silence comfortable for once. Ryan spoke first. "Mom, thank you for respecting our boundaries." Margaret's eyes filled. "I should have done it sooner." Emily looked at her. "We're not erasing the past," she said softly. "But we're choosing the future." Margaret nodded, tears falling freely now. "I'll take whatever you give me. Even if it's just this." A year later, Lucas's 6th birthday. The backyard full of friends, balloons, a bounce house. Margaret arrived carrying a homemade cake, chocolate with Lucas's name in blue icing. She set it on the table, looked around at the people who once feared her, and smiled, a real smile. Emily took a photo that day. Lucas in the center, arms around his parents and his grandma. All of them smiling, all of them healing. Not perfect, not unbroken, but together. Oh, honey, families aren't born perfect. They're forged in fire, cracked open, rebuilt piece by painful piece. Emily didn't forgive because she had to. She forgave because she chose to. For her son, for her husband, and maybe, just maybe, for the scared old woman who once thought control was the only way to love. And in the end, that choice, that quiet, hard, beautiful choice became their greatest miracle of all. Ah, honey, sit with me a while. Time doesn't erase scars. It just teaches you how to carry them lighter. 8 years had slipped by like pages in a book. You never thought you'd finish reading. Lucas was 12 now, tall for his age, curious eyes, hair that still curled at the ends when it got long. A boy who asked questions that made grown-ups pause. Emily's laugh lines had deepened, but they came from joy more often than worry these days. Ryan had gray at his temples, a steady calm that only comes after surviving storms. And Margaret had become part of the rhythm of their lives. Not the center, never again the center, but a quiet, careful thread woven back in. The house on Maple Lane had changed too. A second story added for extra bedrooms. A treehouse Ryan and Lucas built together one summer. Mostly Ryan holding the wood while Lucas bossed him around. A garden that now bloomed year-round because Margaret had taught Emily how to winterize the roses. One of the first things she offered after the supervised visits became regular ones. Lucas called her Gran now. Not Grandma Margaret anymore, just Gran. Simple, easy, like breathing. It started on a rainy Saturday afternoon. Lucas sat at the kitchen island doing homework, history project on family trees. He looked up at Emily, pencil tapping. Mama, why didn't I know Gran when I was a baby? The question landed soft, but heavy. Emily set down the dish towel she was holding. She glanced at Ryan, who had just walked in from the garage. He leaned against the doorway, listening, not rescuing. They had agreed long ago, when Lucas asked. They answered truthfully, age-appropriately. Emily pulled up a stool beside him. When you were born, Gran and we didn't understand each other very well. We both loved your dad a lot. And sometimes when people love the same person, they fight over how that love should look. Lucas frowned. Did she not like you? Emily smiled. Small, honest. She didn't trust me at first. She was scared of losing your dad. And I was scared of losing my place in our family. Lucas looked at Ryan. And you, Dad? Ryan came closer, sat on the other side. I was stuck in the middle for a long time, buddy. I loved Gran because she raised me. I loved your mom because she chose me every day. It took me too long to realize I didn't have to choose. I could love both, but only if I set the rules for how that love was allowed to happen. Lucas nodded slowly, processing. So you fixed it? Emily touched his hand. We worked on it. A lot. Therapy, talking, waiting. Gran worked on herself too. And eventually, we found a way to be a family again. Not the same as before, better, because we all chose it. Lucas looked between them. I'm glad you did. Then he went back to his project, adding Gran's name carefully to the tree, right next to Grandpa, Ryan's dad, who had passed long before Lucas was born. That summer, Lucas asked for more. Not all at once. Little questions here and there. Why did Gran live in such a big house alone? Why did she cry when she first hugged me? Why does she always bring the same kind of cookies, the ones with almonds? Emily and Ryan answered as best they could. Then one day, Lucas asked the biggest one yet. Can I ask Gran herself? They arranged it carefully. A Saturday picnic at the park. Neutral ground even after all these years. Lucas brought his sketchbook. He loved drawing now. Margaret arrived with her usual bakery, box and a small photo album. She hadn't shown anyone before. They sat under a big oak tree. Lucas opened first. Gran, can you tell me about when Dad was little? Margaret's eyes softened. She opened the album. Faded photos, tiny Ryan in overalls, building forts, riding a tricycle. She told stories, gentle ones. How Ryan used to hide under the dining table when he was scared of thunder. How he once tried to rescue a baby bird and ended up with it living in his bedroom for 3 days. Lucas laughed, loud, free. Then Lucas asked the hard one. Why didn't you like Mama at first? The air went still. Margaret looked at Emily, really looked. Then at Ryan, then back at the boy. Because I was afraid, she said quietly. I thought if your dad loved someone else so much, there wouldn't be room for me anymore. I was wrong. Love doesn't run out like water in a cup. It grows when you let it. Lucas tilted his head. Did it hurt when they left? Margaret's voice cracked, just a little. Yes, sweetheart. It hurt more than anything. But it was supposed to. That hurt taught me I had to change. Lucas reached over and patted her hand. Small, serious gesture. I'm glad you changed. Margaret's tears fell then, silent ones. Emily handed her a tissue without a word. Ryan squeezed Lucas's shoulder. No one spoke for a long time. Just the sound of leaves rustling, birds, distant children laughing. The next winter brought the hardest test yet. Margaret got sick. Not dramatic, movie-style sick. Quiet, stubborn sick. Heart trouble. The same kind she'd used as leverage years ago, but this time real. Doctors, tests, hospital stays. Emily and Ryan debated long nights. Lucas overheard enough to worry. One evening he came to Emily's office door. Mama, is Gran going to die? Emily pulled him into her lap, even though he was almost too big now. We don't know, baby. She's strong, but she needs help. Lucas looked up at her. Can we visit her in the hospital? Emily hesitated, old instincts flaring. Then she remembered the boy who had hugged a crying grandmother 8 years ago. Yes, she said. We can? They went the next day. Margaret looked small in the hospital bed. Wires, monitors, pale skin. But her eyes lit up when Lucas walked in. My sweet boy. Lucas climbed carefully onto the side of the bed, with nurse permission. He held her hand. You have to get better, Gran. You still owe me stories about Dad. Margaret laughed, weak but real. I promise I'll try. Emily stood back, watching. Ryan beside her. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Margaret recovered slowly. Cardiac rehab, daily walks, new medications. She moved into a smaller condo closer to Maple Lane, easier for visits. No more grand estate. She said she didn't need it anymore. One spring afternoon, Lucas came home from school with a project. A family tree expanded. Not just names, stories, little notes beside each person. Beside Margaret's name, she learned how to love better. She's my Gran. He showed it to Emily first, then to Ryan, then, with their permission, to Margaret. She read it slowly, touched the words with trembling fingers, then looked at Lucas. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me a second chance to be someone you can be proud of. Lucas hugged her, big, tight hug of a 12-year-old. I am proud of you, Gran. That summer, they all went to the lake together. First time as a full family. Picnic blanket, fishing poles, sunscreen, laughter. As the sun set, Margaret sat beside Emily on the dock, feet dangling over the water. I never thought I'd see this day, Margaret said softly. Emily looked at the horizon. I never thought I'd want to. Silence, comfortable now. Margaret spoke again. I'm sorry. Every day I'm still sorry. Emily nodded. I know. Then after a long pause, but I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, because I deserve peace. And Lucas deserves a grandmother who loves him without strings. Margaret cried then, quiet, grateful tears. Emily put an arm around her shoulders, light but there. They sat like that until the stars came out. Oh, honey, forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 small choices, 1,000 days of showing up differently. Emily chose it. Ryan chose it. Margaret chose it. And Lucas, sweet, questioning Lucas, grew up in the space they made together. Not perfect, not without memories of pain, but real, whole, and theirs. Ah, my dear, come sit close. We've walked a long road together, haven't we? Through fire and silence, through tears and small miracles. Now the boy who once asked the hardest questions is a man of 32. 20 years have passed since that courtroom morning when a gavel decided, not just custody, but the shape of love itself. Time has been kind in some ways, and merciless in others. But love, real love, the kind that survives mistakes, the kind that is rebuilt brick by painful brick, that kind of love? It endures. It becomes legacy. Lucas Harrington was 32 now, tall like his father, thoughtful eyes like his mother, and a quiet strength that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than either of them alone. He had graduated college with a degree in psychology, ironic perhaps, considering the therapy bills his family had paid over the years. He worked as a family therapist himself, now helping other families untangle the knots that fear and control had tied so tightly. He had a small practice in a modest office downtown, a waiting room with soft lighting and plants that actually lived. He was good with them, just like the garden on Maple Lane. He was married to Sarah, kind, funny, patient Sarah, who had met him in grad school and never once flinched when he talked. About his childhood, they had a daughter now, Lila, 18 months old. Big brown eyes, curls that refused to behave, and a laugh that could melt the hardest heart. The house on Maple Lane still stood, though Emily and Ryan had downsized to a cozy bungalow nearby 2 years ago. They kept the old house for family gatherings, for holidays, for the memories that lived in the walls. Margaret lived in the small condo. She had moved to after her heart scare, close enough for weekly dinners, far enough to respect the boundaries that had once been drawn in blood and tears. It was a crisp October afternoon when Lucas pulled into the driveway of the old house, Sarah and Lila in the back seat. He had called ahead. "I need to talk to everyone. Not urgent. Not angry, just necessary." Emily opened the door, still beautiful at 60, silver hair in a soft bob, laugh lines etched deep from years of choosing joy. Ryan stood behind her, grayer, slower, but eyes still kind. Margaret arrived minutes later, walking stick now, but posture straight, dignity intact. They gathered in the living room, same sofa, new cushions, same fireplace, new mantel photos. Lucas's wedding, Lila's first birthday, Margaret holding her great-granddaughter for the first time, supervised only for the first year, then freely after that. Lucas sat on the ottoman, the same one he used to climb as a child, Lila on his lap playing with his keys. He looked around the room at the 3 women who had shaped him, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother in waiting. "I've been thinking a lot lately," he began, "about stories, about the ones we tell and the ones we don't." He paused. Sarah squeezed his hand from beside him. "When I was little, you all protected me from the hard parts. I'm grateful for that, but I'm old enough now. I want to know the full story, not because I'm angry, because I want to understand how we got here, to this room, this day, this family." Silence fell, soft, respectful. Emily spoke first, voice steady. "You deserve the truth, Lucas, all of it." And so they told him, not rushed, not edited, piece by piece, like laying out a quilt made from torn fabric that had been carefully mended. Emily told about the wedding day, the first crack, the white dress comment, about the nursery painted without her input, about the baby shower she didn't get to enjoy, about the hospital room, where she labored alone while Margaret held court in the waiting area. Ryan told about his silence, the guilt that ate him alive for years, how he had chosen his mother's comfort over his wife's pain, how therapy had helped him see that love isn't a zero-sum game. Margaret spoke last, voice low, trembling at first, then stronger. She told about the fear that had ruled her after her husband died, about raising Ryan alone and believing the only way to keep him safe was to keep him close, too close. She told about the letter to Emily's father, about the fabricated custody battle against her own in-laws, about the emergency court filing that had almost taken Lucas away. "I was a monster of my own making," she said quietly. "Not because I was evil, because I was terrified. And terror makes people cruel in the name of love." Lucas listened. Lila fell asleep against his chest. No one interrupted. When Margaret finished, tears on her cheeks, Lucas reached across and took her hand. "Thank you," he said. "All of you, for telling me, for surviving it, for choosing differently." He looked at his mother. "You fought for me when I couldn't. You set the boundaries that saved us." To his father, "You learned. You changed. That's harder than never making the mistake." To Margaret, "You came back. Every single time they let you, you showed up different. You earned this place, not because you deserved it at first, but because you rebuilt yourself until you did." Then he lifted Lila gently. "And this little girl, she gets to grow up with all of you. No secrets, no walls, just love that knows how to bend without breaking." Christmas Eve, 2 years later, Lila was 3.5, full of questions, just like her father had been. The house on Maple Lane glowed with lights. The tree was decorated with ornaments from 3 generations. Ryan's childhood stars, Emily's handmade ones from college, Lucas's kindergarten crafts, and now Lila's glittering paper chains. They sat around the fire after dinner, Lila on Margaret's lap, the woman who once terrified grown adults, now singing soft lullabies to a toddler. Lucas brought out the old family photo album, the one Margaret had shown him years ago. He opened to the page of baby Ryan. "Tell me again about the bird in your bedroom," he said, smiling. Margaret laughed, a sound that had once been rare, now common. "Oh, that silly bird. It lived with us for 3 days. Your dad cried when we finally released it." Lila looked up at her great-grandmother. "Did you cry, Gran?" Margaret's eyes softened. "Sometimes, sweetheart, but happy tears now. Mostly happy tears." Emily watched from the armchair, Ryan's arm around her shoulders. She met Margaret's eyes across the room. No words needed. Just a small nod, acknowledgement, gratitude, peace. A few months later, spring again. Margaret's heart had weakened more. Doctors said it was time. She called Lucas one afternoon. "I'd like to write letters," she said. "One for each of you, to be opened after I'm gone." Lucas didn't argue. He helped her. Sat beside her bed with paper and pen. She wrote slowly, hands shaky but words clear. To Emily, "You were stronger than I ever was. You protected what mattered most. You let me back in when I had no right. Thank you for teaching me what real love looks like. I'm sorry, and I'm grateful, always." To Ryan, "My boy, I held you too tight. I'm sorry I made you choose. You became the man I always hoped you would, better than I could have dreamed. Be gentle with yourself. You've earned it." To Lucas, "My sweet boy, you were the reason I changed. You hugged me when I didn't deserve it. You asked hard questions and listened to hard answers. You are the best thing I ever helped bring into this world. Even if indirectly, carry the lessons, not the pain. Love big, love brave, love free." And one small envelope for Lila, to be given when she was older. "A promise from your great-grandma. You will never have to earn love. It will always be here waiting for you, even when I'm not." Margaret passed on a gentle May morning, sun streaming through the window, birds singing outside. Lucas was holding her hand, Emily and Ryan in the room, Sarah and Lila nearby. No drama, no last-minute confessions, just peace, the kind that comes after decades of work. At the memorial, Lucas spoke. Simple words. She wasn't perfect. None of us are. But she learned how to love better. And in the end, that's the only legacy that matters. Years later, Lila at 16, sitting on the dock at the lake with her father. The same dock where Emily and Margaret had once sat in silence, forgiving. Lila asked the question her father had asked decades earlier. "Dad, why did Gran have to change so much?" Lucas smiled, soft, remembering. "Because she loved us. But she didn't know how at first. Love isn't just feeling. It's learning. It's apologizing. It's showing up different tomorrow than you were yesterday." Lila looked at the water. "I wish I could have known her longer." Lucas put his arm around her. "You do know her. Every time you choose kindness over control. Every time you listen instead of demand. Every time you forgive. That's how you know her." The sun set slow over the lake. The same sunset Emily, Ryan, and Margaret had once watched together. The same light that had touched 3 generations. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces between heartbeats, love lived on, imperfect, hard-won, eternal. Oh, honey, that's the story. Not of perfect people, but of people who chose to become better. Who chose forgiveness over victory. Who chose love again and again, even when it hurt. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.